The 49ers are into the bye at 4-4, but I did a little digging, and I think there is a major reason why they are about to dominate in the second half after the bye. Plus, why Grant Cohn is not actually starting a cooking show. We'll get to all that and more. Today's Stats and Co. What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohen on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What's going on, Grant? It's the bye week. What are you doing with yourself now?
I slept about 11 hours last night. I've been running on adrenaline since late July. It's really nice to decompress and just work on my golf swing.
Wow. Do you go on any trips or anything during the bye, or just going to staycation?
If I were good at planning ahead, I would have done something like that. I know a few beat writers are doing things like that, going to places like Hawaii. But me, I just live minute to minute, stream to stream, and now I wish I had done something like that. But hey, I'm going to Tampa next week, and that's a nice place.
Okay.
I've heard.
Bad. I mean,
Jesse lives there. He loves it.
Okay. There you go.
There's my vacation, Tampa, for 2 nights.
A 2-night vacation. It's like
where I work.
That Jim Gaffigan bit where he talks about when you have a family and you go on vacation, you get the car all packed up, you get the kids in, you get the wife in, you close her door, and the walk from her door to your door, that's your vacation.
That's a good time.
So there you go.
Me time.
2 days in Tampa. All right. I titled this video Why the 49ers Are About to Dominate in the Second Half. And I think I have some precedent here, Grant. You're going to completely disagree with it, and you're going to make me mad, but I don't care. I'm buying in.
You might make me mad before I make you mad.
True. I don't know how much you've noticed this, but Kyle Shanahan is awesome after the bye week. Before the bye week, he is not very good, but after the bye week, even in the down years, he's really, really good. Let me throw it up on the screen. Before the bye, Kyle Shanahan has a .416 winning percentage in his career as a head coach. After the bye, he has a winning percentage of 70. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter when the bye is, but after the bye, Kyle figures some stuff out and they go on a run.
That's great. You always got the stats. That's why they call you stats, man. That's very interesting. That looks like a pattern. Goes back 8 years. Here's my thing with the 2024 49ers. Anytime people try to hype them up, like the best is yet to come and we know what this team can do, it's really based on absolutely nothing they've done this year. It's all based on the past. Like, look, we know this team. They've been around. They've done it before. They can do it again. And maybe that's true. But I feel like there's nothing they've done this year that indicates that they're going to go on this run that we expect them to go on. I mean, they're 4-4. They just beat a terrible Cowboys team. They haven't beaten a good team. And a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter isn't safe with this team. That's what I see. Maybe Christian McCaffrey comes back, plays like Superman, turns everything around. But this team right here doesn't have, like, people look at the Lions just shredding the league, and they're like, I don't know. We got to see more. They haven't really done it that long. Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, that team is just putting up 50 points without throwing for 100 yards. They're beating teams in creatively weird ways. The Niners are struggling to beat bad teams. I don't know. This is very interesting information that you bring here, but it's based on a lot of other teams with different players, different coaches.
That is a logical, reasonable argument. My counter to that would be, you probably could have said a lot of that stuff in other years as well.
I was thinking that when I said it too. That's true.
But you're not wrong about what you said. They haven't beaten a good team this year, and they've lost to, they lost to the Cardinals, who I know the Cardinals have played a little better recently, but the game situation in Cardinals and the Rams, you shouldn't have lost those games, period, flat out, end of story. Now, I think you can buy into a little bit more of what I'm saying if you're on board the Christian McCaffrey is coming back train, maybe Dre Greenlaw is coming back. That certainly helps, but we honestly have no idea what we're going to get from Christian McCaffrey. And I noticed this, Grant. I don't know if you noticed it. The reports from Rappaport and Schefter and everybody, they're like, hey, he's coming back. Things look good. But when you hear Kyle and John talk about it, it seems very much touch and go.
I agree with that. It seems like Kyle's almost a little surprised, like, hey, we're not going to push it. I don't know where this information's coming from, but we can't predict the future. And he really has to get through, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 workouts without having any type of soreness before we'll put him out there. And so, I mean, that to me seems like a very honest, transparent answer from Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he's double talking there. I actually think he's doing a great job of communicating what's really going on.
Which I like. I appreciate that. Like, they're not trying to gaslight us.
Mm-mm.
I still don't think you can count on anything from Christian McCaffrey, just given the nature of the injury. We don't, he could come back for a play and make one cut, and all of a sudden they're bothering him all over again. It's just a very dicey injury.
Here's why I'm still skeptical about the 2024 Niners being able to do what the other versions of the Niners have done. I feel like this team is kind of defined by drama. And it's been like that all like since like the off season. I mean, like maybe not even drama, but like drama plus bad luck. The Ricky Pearsall getting shot, 3 or 4 players holding out. The latest thing with Bosa, like there's always something going on with this team, and I'm still waiting for them to like just get rid of all that stuff and lock in the way they have in the past. And I don't know that they are gonna. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess that's how I look at it.
One thing that will help with that is the rest of the NFC coming back to the 49ers. And honestly, they probably need it this year more than ever. They really, really need it. And one of the things I'm going to be watching on the bye week is some of the other games, obviously, just rooting for the best possible outcome for the 49ers. Detroit and Green Bay. I think like Detroit's going to be the number 1 seed, barring a catastrophe. I mean, they lost their best player on defense, and then they dropped 50 points last week. Like, they look like they're going to be the number 1 seed. So what I'm hoping for from Detroit is take down some of the NFC wildcard teams, right? The Niners need the wildcard teams to come back to them. The Lions play the Packers this week. We don't know what's up with Jordan Love. First of all, the Packers are getting 3 points, and they're at home. So that tells you Vegas thinks Detroit's going to spank them, and that's exactly what the 49ers need.
I actually like Green Bay. I would take Green Bay in the points because
Really?
the Lions on the road, outdoors in the cold, I feel like they're a different team. Maybe that's the old Lions, but I still think they have something to prove in that situation. And the well, I'd like to know a little bit more about Jordan Love. But that being said, their offense was really good with Malik Willis. It was.
LaFleur seems to know how to just flip the switch when Willis has to come in, to his credit.
It's so funny. Like Trey Lance hasn't worked out. Anthony Richardson just got benched, but Malik Willis is the guy who can run 15 times and throw 15 times and win. Like, that's amazing. Maybe coaching really freaking matters.
I want to see. I'm looking at Detroit's schedule because you mentioned them playing outside.
Yeah.
They have played outside. I mean, I don't know if Arizona counts as outside. I think they have a open air kind of roof thing or something.
No, it's indoors, but they do have grass.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see. They've played at Dallas. That doesn't count. At Minnesota's inside. They're really not outside on the road much.
Because Goff's arm isn't super strong. I mean, it's stronger than Purdy's, but he's like he's kind of like Breeze. He's much better indoors with no wind.
Yeah. So if you want to be on my side and take the take the Lions and hope that they can do some work for the 49ers, feel free to go ahead and do that, and do it with BetUS. You can receive 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Just use code YouTube150. The code YouTube150. They have the best betting variety in the business. You can get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. I mean, personally, I don't lose that much, but other people might lose. So
10% is a lot, depending on how much you actually, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So please go and check out BetUS. They sponsor this show. They sponsor Grant's channel as well. Happy to have them aboard as partners. That's just one thing I'm going to be watching during the bye week, but I want to keep this more Niners centric if we could. Kyle was
I feel like we've come to an interesting discussion though. Like, do the 2024 49ers deserve the benefit of the doubt? I mean, I guess they'll prove it one way or another, but most people are giving them the benefit of the doubt because they've been so consistent for so long. And I think what's interesting in sports is sometimes the end comes like very suddenly, and you don't necessarily know what you're looking at. You know that you're looking at the end until it's there. And I think maybe I'm too quick to want to see that, or I'm like projecting on the 49ers, but this feels like the beginning of the end of this team. I don't know.
Well, I think that maybe the Niners are sort of in agreement with you, and I'll explain what I mean in a
Okay.
second. Matt McCune, YouTube channel member, says, one thing I'm concerned about is the lack of transparency with Juwan's injury, what's going on with him. They think he's going to be back. I think Kyle was on KMBR. He said he'd be surprised if Juwan wasn't back. I'd
Yeah,
be
he said that on his Monday conference call too. He's like, I expect him back.
Yeah.
Okay.
49ers not transparent with injuries. Kyle was on KMBR. John Lynch was on KMBR today, and they both basically said nothing's really happening at the deadline. And I was not exactly surprised to hear that, but it did make me wonder, Grant, if internally, and this is, our favorite thing to do here on the show, irresponsible speculation. But it did make me wonder if internally Kyle and John sat down and said, look, we don't think this team is as good as it has been in years past. We don't think we're one or two guys away from making a legitimate Super Bowl run. Why don't we play who we have, hope that McCaffrey can come back in Greenlaw, and we'll see where the chips fall? Because I think the other thing they've seen, Grant, is this rookie class that they have looks to be their best rookie class in years. And maybe their thinking is, if we keep our picks and we have another class that's similar to that in 2025, we can be right back among the best rosters in the league, and we can make another legitimate run at this thing immediately. So I'm wondering if maybe that is part of the reason why they are not burning up the phone lines trying to make a deal before Tuesday's deadline.
It's a great question. There's a lot of potential theories. So let's go through them. One is they agree with you. They're about to go on a run, as is. Christian McCaffrey's coming back. He's going to be great. They've done this before. Why panic and trade picks, mortgage the future for some veteran who doesn't know the system per se? Like they tried that with Chase Young last year. It didn't work. Maybe they feel that way. Or maybe maybe it's bigger. Maybe it's business. Maybe they went to the owners this offseason and convinced them to spend a lot of money. These guys spent a ton of money, cash, on signing bonuses to keep current players on the team happy. 3 or 4 guys, more than that. And now you go be like, hey, it wasn't enough. We're kind of struggling at 4-4. Can we get Zadarius Smith? Can we get at some point, maybe the owners say, no, we've spent enough, make it work. I don't know. There are a lot of ways you could go with this, but they're not making a move.
It's possible. Tim Kawakami kind of mentioned that before the season about how maybe some of the reluctance from the Niners to spend to give all these guys new contracts was just because ownership was like, damn, man, we spent enough. There's no way to know for sure. John Lynch was asked on KMBR, were you in on Deontay Johnson? And he said no. And first of all, he answered it, which is surprising. And then he was just like, nope. So
is it possible when Kyle had to run into the front office and say, no, don't trade Brandon Ayuk. Come on, please. Just give him $30 million a year. He said, okay. Is it possible that behind the closed doors, they're like, all right, Kyle, we'll do this, but don't you freaking dare come to us at the trade deadline asking us to spend more money. This is it for this year. I don't know.
I mean, that very well could be. I have no idea to know, but it's not this wild conspiracy theory. That is a logical conclusion that one person could come to.
The Yorks spend a lot of money. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on renovating Levi Stadium. They're heavily invested. They own Leeds United. They spend. And I think at a certain point they might say enough. I don't know.
And maybe the Niners really do believe that, hey, once McCaffrey gets back, that they don't need anybody else, that the young players that they have are going to be good enough. I certainly would love to see them add, at least, if not an impact edge rusher, some depth along the defensive line. I think they clearly could use that.
Linebacker.
Yeah, unless they really are confident in Greenlaw. I don't know. Because if you have Greenlaw, Warner, and Winters, I could get on board with that.
It sounds like they're more hopeful about McCaffrey than Greenlaw. With McCaffrey, they're like, hey, everything goes well. There's a couple of weeks. He might go. With Greenlaw, they're like, yeah, week to week. Well, we're not. It just seems like if he comes back at all this year, that would be kind of surprising to me. Remember, it still hasn't even been. What has it been 9 months? It's been 9 months. Not even.
The second devastating part of that, obviously the first was losing him for the Super Bowl itself. But then the second worst part of that is it was so late in the calendar that you knew it was really going to affect 2024, because that's just the reality of the timeline with the injury that he had.
I hate to bring this up. I don't even want to put it out there, but I think it's probably crossed people's minds. It would really suck if something similar like that happened to Christian. You know, delaying it, trying to make it right, and then all of a sudden, the potentially the inevitable happens. Yeah, that would really suck.
And
Like
there's no way to. The problem is like there's no way to avoid it, right? Because I mean, I guess you could
They're
sit him,
trying.
right. You could sit him for the whole year, but even that you don't really know. I mean, so it's a tricky situation. At some point, Christian's probably like, "Look, I have to at least try. Like, if it happens, it happens. But like,
But if it happens in February, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a couple super chats here I want to get to. David spread my sheets party. Oh God, it's a good username. Says Ryan Hensley for president. It's got to be Ryan's burner, I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
Moon says lose with the team you got. Injury excuse, trade assets to grab a player or two, and lose heads roll. I will say this, Grant. I have been surprised at what the guys that have been traded have gone for. It seems like they have not gone for much. 5th round picks, 6th round picks. Like, if you could get a Calais Campbell for a 6th round pick, like,
you have to do it. You have the most cap space in the league. Like, remember, it was just a couple of months ago where people were saying you got to give Brandon Ayuk all this money. It's a Super Bowl year. You got to spend all this money. I mean, this could be the last year of the window. Like, don't stop now, Denise. Come on, write some checks. What are you doing? You're 4-4. Stats just laid out the pattern. You're gonna be fine. You can't give up now because I said it's going bad. Listen to Rob.
Does Kyle have this photo, this data, and is he just going to go drop it into Jed York's office or John York? You know, he showed up,
or maybe John's dropping it, and Kyle's like, "Don't worry, man. You don't need new players. You're good. You're a great coach."
Right? Yeah, it works both ways. Kyle's like, "Take a run," and they're like, "No, it turns out you're pretty good without it anyway."
We believe in you, Kyle. You got it in you.
The John York thing at practice. I know you were talking about that. Like, do you think he was just in town because he wanted to see them play the Cowboys, or like, what do you think was the deal there?
I mean, I can't speculate because I don't know. And I'm sure if you ask their PR staff, that's what they'd say. Hey, he was just in town. It just seems that the times that he's randomly just in town is when they're 3-4 on a given year. Like, he just happens to be there when it's like, when it's just about to be panic time, and then they win. So I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like, it's kind of interesting because he's older and it doesn't seem like he's there to like talk or be in charge, but just his mere presence must send shivers down their spine. It's like, damn, the boss's boss is here. Okay. We got it.
Everybody sit up a little straighter, tuck in the shirt, you know. It's
good to see you, John.
Yeah, sure. How you doing, Dr. York? You always got to throw a doctor in there.
It's cool to have that kind of impact when you just walk into a place. It's like, oh, shh.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, me neither. I never will.
Hey, you're back on number 1 among 49ers content creator YouTube subscriptions, according to the chat. So you got
wonderful. That. Hey, you know, things happen sometimes. It's good. It's a good time. I got to thank Andy Reid for that one. Got to thank Patrick Mahomes, Kyle Shanahan. I really got to thank Kyle Shanahan. I started with nothing on this YouTube, and now look how far I've come. Really couldn't have done it without him. So appreciate him. Been a lot of quarterbacks, but he's been the constant.
There were some things about the game on Sunday night that I thought was exciting. One was like we saw the easy button appear again, right? We saw screen passes. We saw end arounds to wide receivers. Ricky Pearsall had a beautiful end around. We saw short passes in the second half. Like, we saw a lot of the things that we were asking, where the hell is all this stuff? It was there on Sunday night. So that was encouraging to me.
Kyle saving it. Again, to your point that he just wants to win later on in the season. He's been sandbagging it. He's just been lowering expectations. He didn't show any creativity earlier in the year. He knew he was going to lose to the Chiefs. He's just one step ahead. And it's like, okay, John York shows up. Sunday Night Football, Cowboys. How can I not embarrass this team? It's America's team. I got to do it. And he did it, which gives us hope that Kyle Shanahan still has new, fresh ideas, because he was in that 1/3 quarter. He was killing it. And really earlier on, Brock was missing some throws that were open, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, but you can't say that. God forbid you point that out. Half of 49ers fans will come after you because you criticize the quarterback. He's not perfect, and it's okay to say when he's good, and it's okay to say when he's bad.
No, it's not okay, because he hasn't gotten paid yet. He's still like, your little brother. But once he gets paid $60 million a year, then people are going to be talking about the throws he missed every week. And it won't just be like Niners fans. It'll be people all over the country because you have that. I mean, look at Dak. Dak looks miserable. Brock, look at Dak. Dak looks absolutely miserable now that he's the highest paid player in the league because he can't stand up to the scrutiny. He'd be so much happier if he was just making 40.
He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but at Levi's Stadium. Like it was not good. One of the reasons Brock was better in the second half, they were throwing shorter. Jeff Deeney of PFF pointed this out. In the first half, his average depth of target was 10.1 yards. In the second half, 3.8 yards. And they were still able to rip off big plays. They like got back to basics with Brock. He said it after the game. I had to, sort of tell myself to reset and get back to basics. And it worked in the second half. In that third quarter, that was like the glimpse, right? That was the 49ers. If they just get out of their own way, they tore it up in that third quarter, offensively and defensively.
And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We got in an argument, but I like talking like football theory with you because the idea is they're throwing man coverage at you. What are you going to do? And earlier in the season, it was like, okay, well, Brock's going to hold the ball longer and he's going to create plays off schedule. He's going to throw the ball deep. They've never seen this before. Okay, they adjust. And now you're struggling to these are a lot of low percentage throws. And we're talking like, can't you, Kyle, scheme open some high percentage throws against man-to-man covers the way Andy Reid does? Because that would help. And then all of a sudden, boom. Second half, yes. Little short, shallow crosses. Like simple. You're going to play man-to-man coverage against Deebo Samuel. Good luck covering him on a simple shallow cross. Because if he catches that 3 yards past the line of scrimmage and you're like kind of trailing him, touchdown. So it was nice to see that kind of stuff for sure. Did it with Kittle too.
Here's how good the third quarter was. This comes from OptaStats. There have been 26,276 quarters of football played since 2000. In only one of those did a quarterback throw for 100-plus yards on 100% completions while also rushing for 30 yards. That one quarter was Brock Purdy in the third quarter on Sunday night. That is how good they can be. It's in there, right? Like we've seen it. It is there. Now, look, the Cowboys defense stinks. I get it. I get all the caveats, but like it's there. The potential is there. And they didn't even have Brandon Ayuk and they didn't have Christian McCaffrey. So it's in there. We just have to bring it out more frequently.
Agree. I feel like with Christian McCaffrey, they're like, well, they're not going to play man-to-man coverage because they can't cover him. So we'll just feast on zone all day. But now that he's gone, they have to practice this because he's not going to be here forever. How is Brock going to beat man-to-man coverage? And I think one, Kyle can help him with some schemed up short throws, but two, the scrambling. The scrambling is going to break the man-to-man coverage because it seems like even if you spy him, he's really good at like pump faking one way and going the other way. Like he doesn't necessarily have to make all these pinpoint throws downfield. He can just scramble for 15 yards a pop and it'll kill you.
There is always a counter to whatever the defense is going to do. Sometimes it takes offenses more time than others to figure it out, but there's always a trade-off. If you're going to play tight man coverage, then you're going to give opportunities for the quarterback to make some moves. Brock has 15 first downs scrambling this season. That is tied with Jaden Daniels for the most in the NFL. He told us after last season he wanted to work on his mobility. It's working. He's much more decisive too. And like you mentioned that pump fake, I forget who put that out. Was it Brad Graham or somebody?
Yeah.
Pointed out like there's a spy on Brock and he pump fakes. And I mean, I don't know this, but this is my irresponsible speculation, but I would bet all the money in my pockets that he is pump faking with no intention to throw whatsoever. The only reason he's doing the pump fake is to move the spy to one side of the field because he knows he's going to take off and run to the other side. And even if you lean the wrong way against him, when he scrambles, he's so explosive that that's going to give him just enough space to get around the edge and get the yardage that he needs.
I love that he's forcing teams to spy him. I mean, this is the kind of quarterback I grew up watching. This is Steve Young, Jeff Garcia football. I love this version of Brock Purdy. I think a purely aesthetic thing. I never liked watching Jimmy. He just stood there. And if he couldn't win from one spot, he wasn't going to win. And it's, to me, like, that's not how you really, I know it's how Tom Brady played quarterback, but you have to be really special to do that. And I grew up watching Jeff Garcia, and this is how Jeff played. Jeff was a playmaker. Steve Young was a playmaker. And now Brock's rushing like 5.5 times a game, averaging 5 yards a carry. You can't stop an offense if a quarterback can do that and beat you with his arm. They're pretty much unstoppable if he's locked in like that. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm starting to come around to the idea that Brock could become an elite quarterback one day if he plays like this and stays healthy.
What the running allows you to do, and that's a good point
Yeah.
you made at the end. He's not taking hits on these runs either. He's
Mm-mm.
getting down, he's protecting himself. What it allows you to do is potentially take a play where you might have a negative play, an incompletion, a loss of yards, and turn it into a positive play. And even if you only gain 3 or 4 yards, that's great. But he's turning it into 5, 6, 7 yards. And so if those are the quote unquote bad plays, maybe a play where Kyle Shanahan doesn't have a good call dialed up, where the defense has a beat on him, whatever the case may be, if those can turn into positive gains, then you're talking about an offense that's going to have success pushing the ball downfield, controlling the clock, controlling field position. It has added exactly the dimension I think they wanted, Grant, when they drafted Trey Lance. I think that's what they were hoping that he would give them on the ground. He never did. Brock absolutely is.
Yeah, and with Trey Lance, it's like, okay, well, you can add it. It's like gives you the 11-on-11 run game like Jalen Hurts. It's like, yeah, that's great, but the Niners never did that with Steve Young. They never ran the zone read. They didn't do that with Jeff Garcia. Those guys were scramblers. And frankly, the Chiefs, who are the gold standard, shout out to the Gold Standard Network, they don't run a ton of zone read with Patrick Mahomes. It's when he runs, it's usually scrambles. And to me, the way I look at it is the big difference. One of the big difference in the Super Bowl between the Niners and the Chiefs was that Patrick Mahomes ran a lot in big high leverage situations and Purdy didn't. And then in the NFC Championship game, Purdy ran a lot in high leverage situations and Goff didn't. You could argue that those runs are game breakers. And this year with Patrick Mahomes, quote unquote, struggling as a quarterback, his passing stats are down. Man, his rushing plays are winning games for them. And that's sustainable.
I've always said the most back-breaking Mahomes plays are the runs. They're not the throws. You can deal with the throws, but the runs just break you. And we've seen Brock do that to other teams too. They think they're getting off the field. Nope. Squirt around, 7 yards, first down. There we go.
One of the things I love about Brock is how he's never lost to the Seahawks, 5-0, and just destroys them, runs around. I mean, he's like Howdy Doody out there, man. He looks like he's 12. And what's great is that was Russell Wilson once upon a time. Russell Wilson, he's small, look like a kid, and he would just embarrass the 49ers. And for some reason, the Seahawks convinced themselves that he was the problem and he needed to go and that Geno's better. And now the Niners freaking own Geno, and they have to watch little Brock Purdy embarrass them for the next decade. I think it's like a curse, the Russell Wilson curse.
Good. Turnabout is fair play. Damn it. We've got
Hell yeah.
More pain needs to be inflicted on them before the scales are anywhere close to even. So I'm here for that. A couple more super chats. Matt McCune says the Ravens gave up a 5th or a 6th for Johnson. He leaves in free agency, signs a big contract. Ravens could get a 3rd-round comp. Elite move. The Ravens do love to manipulate the comp pick formula. Niners are pretty good at that as well. Nick Eller, YouTube channel member, says people realize Chiefs are a bottom 15 team in the red zone multiple years in a row. The Niners red zone looked good against the Cowboys. They were 4 of 5. The only time they didn't score was when Isaac Guerendo slid at the end of the game. They got another sign for optimism, right? Now, I will say, I thought it was a pick on George Kittle's touchdown. I absolutely thought it was a pick. They said no. I also thought that Brock Purdy was short on the quarterback sneak. I didn't think he got in, but both of those were ruled touchdowns. It's a line drive in the box score, as they say. They both count. But again, it was just another hey, they looked competent in the red zone again, which again, you're hoping for the second half of the year that continues.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be like a wet blanket because it's the bye week and they're coming off a win. And it's definitely the time to praise them and look for reasons to be optimistic. But it was the freaking Cowboys. Sorry, it was the freaking Cowboys. And it's like, I don't think there's that much you can prove when you get back to 4-4 after beating the Cowboys. It's like you took care of business. Kind of. It got dicey at the end. And now it's like you got Tampa and the Seattle coming up. That should be 2 more wins. And then things get really, really serious. Now you got to face you got to beat a caliber of team that you haven't beaten yet. You haven't beaten any team like the Packers yet, or the Bills, or the Bears. I mean, you already lost to the Rams and Cardinals. That Dolphins team is, I mean, who knows what they're going to be. That you could lose to them too. So At 6-4, we expect them to be, although they haven't won back-to-back games yet. Like, are they going to lose to Tampa? They haven't won back-to-back games. Every time they win a game, they celebrate themselves. They say it's Dub City, and they find a way to lose a game they should win right after. So I'm curious, like, what's up with this Niners team? Are you going to do a little victory lap and celebrate Halloween? Yeah. Anyone who's dressing up for Halloween isn't serious about football. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just kidding. But like, seriously, are you going to like feel yourself a little too much like you do every single time you win a game? We're back. Are you? We'll see. Win a second game in a row.
That is absolutely a legitimate criticism of this team. They do seem to feel themselves. Fred Warner talked about it. Like in the post-game presser, he said, like, we don't want to get in a situation where like we win a game, we feel good, then we lose, and all of a sudden our back is against the wall, so we blow up again. Like, no, just keep winning. How about that?
They've already had 2 must-win games this year, it feels like.
Yes.
We're not even in November. And then they've already been back like 3 times this year. It's like, what are they?
Yeah, that's legit. And
yeah.
I do think you have to put some of that on the coaching. Like, you got to get rid of this culture in the locker room, that belief that like, okay, we're good now. Like, no, you have to keep the grind, keep the focus. And Kyle talked about that on KMBR today, about how he said for the first time this season, he saw sort of the desperation during the week. He said not on Sunday. Like, he doesn't doubt them playing hard on Sundays, but he said he saw essentially a different level of focus and desperation during the week, similar to what he had seen from past 49er teams when they would go on those second half runs. So that is good. And it's good that they have that there. But like, I just wish they didn't wait to get to this point every year before they flip that switch.
So he called it desperation and focus. Those were the 2 words he was.
Don't quote me. Let me see if I can pull the audio up really quick, because I don't want to misquote him. I'll get it in a second.
That's okay. Sorry, it doesn't necessarily matter the exact words he chose, but I'm just because I'm gonna sort of like turn it around right now. Because yeah, I mean, to me, focus is the issue here with the 49ers. Focus. And they win this game, and 97 does what I don't even want to bring it up, but it's like, because it's controversial, but like, that's not focus. That's not football focus. That's like, and he even said like, it's an important time. Nah, man, you just won a game. Talk about football. That's the focus we're trying to talk. Like, you just won 1 game. You're trying to go on a 2-game winning streak. And it's like, well, we got to have a side conversation and do a little side quest over here. No side quests. No more side quests, guys. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean.
And he's not the only one who's gone on side quests this year.
There's a lot of side quests with the 49ers. Yeah. All right, I think I have the audio. Here's Kyle Shanahan on KMBR earlier today.
I feel like we did find a little bit of a different edge last week, and not in terms of playing harder. I don't question our guys and how hard they play, how important it is to them as individuals and stuff, but it's finding that collective energy of how important every little moment is. And I'm talking about Monday all the way up to kickoff, and the preparation and every step and walkthrough, just to be so deliberate in what you do and to really have that urgency and that desperation on how every single game, no matter what it is, primetime, division, the first game of the year, the last game of the year, but to have that true, to be truly desperate to where you're giving it everything you have and you can't think about anything else. That's what it takes to find an edge in this league. And if you don't find an edge like that, that's truly genuine, it's such a fine line on how you win and lose games. And I think that's something we've found year in and year out. And I thought we did a better job of finding that towards the end of last week in practice.
So he went on after that, but that was basically the general gist of what he said.
He was talking about the emotion of his team. Wow. Kyle, I'm impressed. And I agree with everything he said. Like, yeah, there's something emotionally missing with this team. Like, oh, we're good. We're going to go on a run. It's early. We're the 49ers. Like, nah, forget that. And the leaders need to say it. And the coach needs to say it. Like, this is a new year. This is a new team. We've proven absolutely nothing. We've underperformed. Like, it's time to lock in and stop expecting things to get easy, because Christian's going to come back. Like, Steve Young was talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Like, it was easy last year. You had a great team. Everything broke your way. It's not going to be easy this year. And rise to the challenge right now. So I like that. Good job, Kyle. What a coach. He's a good coach. They should keep him around. Extension? Maybe?
I'm stunned by your reaction to that. I'm stunned by, I thought you were going to crush him. I thought you were going to talk about, well, that's your fault, Kyle Shanahan. I'm stunned that you had
Well, I mean, it is his fault, but it seems like he's doing something about it right now, and he understands that it's happening, and it's not easy to be a football coach. Year 8, there's a lot of lingering resentment because they lost the Super Bowl last year. There's a lot of stuff he has to deal with. He seems like he's trying.
And I think that us as fans, we had this expectation that, like, because we saw how good they were in the regular season last year. And it was like, yeah, we should be rolling through everybody. And Kyle's point this year, and I do agree with it, has been, this is how most football seasons go for most teams. Like, and whether they finish, 10-7 or 11-6 depends on like one or two key games.
Or 7-10.
Yeah, right. Or 7-10. Like, you're not just going to buzzsaw through everybody most of the time. That's why when it does happen, it's so special and you have to take advantage of it. So this is kind of like how the other half lives, so to speak. And I think that we as fans sort of need to adjust to that. And like, it doesn't mean that the 49ers are a horrible team. It just means they're not at the incredible level that they were at last year.
But to Kyle's point, like he talks about, like, okay, they showed the urgency on Monday. They showed the urgency throughout the week. They didn't take the little details for granted. Cool. And they were terrible in the first half. Sorry, I'm Kyle. I love you, man. But like it translated to one quarter of 49ers football. And that's the highest standard. I don't say that with any snark, but like it translated to one quarter. And it still feels like a team that wants to, like, feels it can flip the switch when they have to. All right, guys. All right, we're down 10-6 at halftime. It's embarrassing. Let's do this. And they just obliterate that stupid, that terrible team. And then it's like, all right, it's over. No, it's not. And then you get outscored 14-3 in the fourth quarter. So they're showing glimpses, but they still got a long way to go to get that standard. And that's about them.
100%. The Cowboys win does not fix or solve any of the problems. It is just a first step on what needs to be several if they're going to get to be the team that they want to be. All day, every day, Kim says comparing a 4-4 quarterback to a 7-0 make sense. People are still arguing about Brock and Patrick Mahomes in the chat. Matt, do your side quests on your own platform. That's totally fair. And, I'll say this. People were bringing up Bosa and Kaepernick and all that. Kaepernick didn't break a single league rule. Nick Bosa did. You're not allowed to have personal messages on any apparel or anything that you wear when you're on the NFL's time.
What if I just did that right now midstream without telling you, hey, to put a hat on and be like, hey, it's an important time, do this. And you'd be like, whoa, you didn't tell me. I wasn't consulted. Now I'm involved. I mean, it'd be like wrong. It'd be like the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I would not be.
So I'm just saying, it wouldn't be cool. No,
absolutely not.
Be cool. So I don't know.
And I thought it was interesting. If anybody's shocked by this, like, you haven't been paying attention to Nick Bosa. I'll say that. Like, this was never really in doubt which side he was on. Now, I tweeted, he can support any candidate he wants. I disagree, but he can support any candidate he wants. That's his right. Some people took that the wrong way. Like, if you've watched any of my shows, you clearly know where I stand on this issue, but he's got rights. He has a First Amendment right to freedom of expression. Now the NFL can.
Yeah, it's not like you're like, I want to know which players on the 49ers are voting for who, and these guys, I'm not rooting for them anymore. They're off the team. It's like, no, of course not. It's America, but it's just about the platforms and all that kind of stuff. And again, if I were to use your platform for my political message, you'd be like, hey, Grant, time out.
Yeah, that would be. We might have to stop the stream.
Exactly. And I wouldn't do it out of general respect for a human being.
And I wouldn't do it on any of your platforms either. That would just be seriously weak sauce.
Definitely weak sauce.
One last thing I want to get into, maybe not last thing, but one more thing I want to get into is, because I saw Jason Aponte on my network on Tuesday talk about this. He literally took a victory lap about it. And I completely disagree. And it's hard for me to sit on the sidelines and produce that show when I disagree with what they say. I'm not totally on board the Niners got a real one with Isaac Guerendo. I can't say that yet. The Cowboys defense was historically bad against the run. It was more efficient to run on the Dallas Cowboys than it was to pass on the Dallas Cowboys for almost every team in the league. That's how bad their run defense is. Now, I'm not saying Isaac Guerendo didn't have a good game. He did. But I'm just saying I want to see him do it against a team that's actually competent against the run before I get on that train.
I think that's fair. He's had 37 carries, and one of them went for 76 yards. If you took away that, I mean, I'm sure his numbers wouldn't be like all world. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but 37 carries, 1 touchdown, 2 fumbles. He's got a little bit more to prove. That being said, I like him. I like him way more than I thought I would. When they drafted him, I was like, Kyle traded up for another one. Like he didn't even start in college. Perfect. But they're like, no, this guy's the next Raheem Mostert. And they said it with their chest. And I was like, oh, that's quite a comparison. And then they gave him his number. It's like, that's a lot of pressure. And he looks kind of like a stronger Raheem Mostert. And Mostert didn't even become Mostert until he was like 29 years old. So maybe I kind of like him. I feel like he deserves 5, 6, 7 carries a game just to see if he's going to break one.
He has the physical abilities. He's fast as hell. You know, I kept saying this after he was drafted because I was so excited about it. In the last like 20 years, the only 2 people at the combine to run as fast as he did at his weight are him and DK Metcalf. Like that is a level of physical specimen that not a lot of people have. So I loved all that. The thing I see from him that kind of frustrates me is I feel like he doesn't break a lot of tackles. If he can get space, he can accelerate away from people. But if you make contact with him, he goes down. And that is not what Jordan Mason does. And that is not what Christian McCaffrey does. So that's just a difference. I'd like to see more tackle breaking from Isaac Guerendo.
Well, according to Pro Football Reference, which is just one of many places that tracks this stuff, and there's no consensus, but they have him at 0 broken tackles through the season right now. So I agree. But I mean, again, what I like about him is now the Niners have 3 running backs who are all different and complement each other. McCaffrey, Mason, Guerendo are all different. And this is the guy who just has the home run speed, who makes 0 cuts or 1 cut. And if the hole is there, he better see it. And if he does, it's a touchdown. Nice to have a guy like that on your team.
He is fast, man. Some of the clips I've seen of him going through the hole, it is like crazy how fast he is. It is an absolute weapon.
Also, if you're going to have George Kittle, who is a weapon as a blocker on the edge of your formation, it's nice to have one running back who can really get out there and press the issue on the outside, because that's not Mason. Mason is cut back quickly, get to the A-gap, get to the backside, get downhill, and that works for him. McCaffrey, he's great and well-rounded, but he doesn't have 4-3 burst like that. Like that's Mostert Guerendo stuff. And when Mostert was in his prime, sometimes there would be plays where he would just take the ball and run straight out of bounds. Not even make a cut and gain 7 yards. Never get touched. And that was very much just like George Kittle being incredible and Mostert being able to take advantage.
It does seem like a little bit of a cheat code, right? Like he can maybe get another few yards where maybe somebody else wouldn't. And those yards make a difference, man. So the more you can do, the more diverse this rushing attack can be. I think you're going to see a lot of Guerendo and Mason, even if McCaffrey does come back. I don't think it's going to be like the straight up Christian McCaffrey show if he comes back, because they are conscious of the overuse factor.
What I would like to see with Kyle, like here's my quality control challenge for Kyle. Kyle, since you're in your bag right now and you're feeling yourself, you got an extra week, how about some screens for Guerendo? I would like to see you scheme up. He doesn't have to run a route. But, I mean, no one's looking at Guerendo. You could have Debo go in motion one way, Kittle go in motion one way, fake it to him, and then a screen back to the backside to Guerendo. That's a potential touchdown. Why not give it a shot? I feel like Andy Reid would.
I hope we see that. I think there's definite opportunity for that.
They could run so many more screens than they are, and they have the personnel to dominate with that.
I mean, if you're going to run screens to Debo, which I agree with, because that's where he's best, like you could dial some of those up for Guerendo.
Pearsall, Cowing, Guerendo, all will be devastated. Even Mason.
Poor Jacob Cowing still can't. I mean, they gave an end around to a wide receiver, and it was Ricky Pearsall instead of.
It's like, oh, Jacob, you just caught a 45-yard pass. Get on the freaking bench. We'll see you in maybe a year.
I will. Pearsall looks good, man. He looks good on that play where Brock got drilled. He is wide open. If Guerendo just chipped the defender a little bit, that would have been a huge play. So I do like what I see from him so far. Hopefully he can keep it up.
I thought his most impressive play was that jet sweep. Like, oh, you're explosive. That was a nice little burst you got there. Because so far he's in the slide, he's catching 7-yard passes, he's having to dive because the ball placement isn't that great. So it's hard to say, like, are you going to be an explosive playmaker? And then he does that. It's like, oh, yep, Yeah, probably will be. Now, I don't know if he can like line up on the ball, but I don't think you want him to be an X receiver on the ball. It seems like if he's in the slot, you can put him in motion. I think that's kind of how you want to use him.
I think I would like to see him used that way, frankly.
Yeah.
Give him more versatility. I don't know if you remember, I don't even know how much you got to see him in camp, but like everyone that talks about him says like, he's not that fast. And then you look it up, it's like I think he ran a 4.41. That seems pretty fast to me. Like,
and he had like a 40-yard vertical leap, a 40-inch vertical leap. He just tested off the charts at the combine.
Yeah, but maybe he's one of those guys that 4.41. Maybe he runs and plays slower than his speed. I don't know, but everyone's always like, he's not that explosive, and I'm like, he friggin' should be.
Yeah, he's 185 pounds, and you look at him, you're like, are you going to go over the middle? Can you really be a gadget guy? Can you run the ball? Like, he seems like it. It seems like he has no fear. It seems like he actually has that kind of skill set, and he didn't really do any training camp. He was out most of the time with the shoulder injury. When he was there for 4 or 5 days, he wasn't doing one-on-one, so it was hard to really see what he could bring to the table. But like now that it's tackle football, it's like, oh, you're a gadget guy. Interesting. Okay.
It's interesting to see how they kind of develop that going forward. A couple of super chats we'll get to. All day, every day. Kim says, I want to see the Cap haters hate Bosa now. That has been very divisive. It's been all my chats all week, people talking about it. My mentions have been full of the whole Bosa Kaepernick thing. It was like, we didn't really.
That's why it's kind of unfortunate that it happened. It's like, it's just destined to overshadow everything.
Yes.
It just is.
Speaking of things overshadowing things, All-Star Luna says, Grant, are you going to reach out to Mooney Ward after what happened? If anyone is unaware, Mooney Ward's 23-month-old daughter passed away this week. Just tragic, devastating news. Are you planning to reach out to Mooney Ward?
I already did. And I will go talk to him in the locker room, but I don't want to make that public. But yeah, of course.
That hit me hard yesterday. Not going to lie. It's just, and then to hear, I think it was Kyle or John on KMBR today said that everything was okay, that he put her to sleep and it was fine. And then the next day he came in and just awful. I can't even imagine what Mooney Ward is going through right now. It's terrible. There's nothing else to say about it. It's horrible. Yeah, that's it. I know everyone is saying the same thing because it is horrible, but somebody brought it up in the chat, and so I wanted to address it. I know that there have been a couple of something
similar happened to Marquise Goodwin. Remember 7 years ago?
Yes, and he scored
a happens
first game afterwards. I think. I did see on the. I don't want to say positive, but there are a couple people that are trying to organize either a donation to St. Jude in Amani's name, which obviously would be a great thing, and also a fan kind of thing where everybody holds up the number 2 or something as a way to recognize and honor her and show support for Mooney Ward during the next home game, which I fully get on board. Like nothing is going to solve or ease the pain that he's going through, but any show of support, I think obviously would be really cool. So if we could organize something like that, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And it'd be nice if the Niners as a team could sort of rally around Trevarius right now. Like this, they've been so caught up in their own stuff. A lot of individual stuff. Like
True.
He needs you. They need each other right now. Like this is something that they can come. I mean, got no choice. This is a tragedy. Got to come together.
Instant perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is something that could work out, but obviously terrible. And yeah, that hit me hard yesterday, and I'm sure all the Niners will rally around him. Kyle apparently talked to him about it. I'm sure Lynch talked to him about it.
It hit me hard too, because like he was sort of dropping hints. He was like, something's going on. I don't want to talk about it. And he said it on the record. I'm like, what is he talking about? And I'm like, is he talking about the team? Is he talking about politics on the roster? And I'm like, oh, and when it happened, I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Like, I'm thinking in such a low level drama stuff, and it's like real life. And I felt it really hit me. Like, yes, I didn't want to tweet yesterday. Like, it's just like I whiffed on that. I didn't see that. I mean, no one saw it, but it's like
right.
He was kind of telling us. It felt like
it's a reminder that like we don't know the other stuff that is going on in people's lives. We never do. And he went on Eric Armstead's podcast and talked about some of the medical issues that she had when she was born, how there were 2 holes in her heart, and sometimes that happens and the holes close up and everything is fine, and sometimes they need to do surgery, and I guess one closed but the other was getting bigger. So like, you never know what somebody's dealing with, and obviously this is just a tragic thing that happened, and the Niners and Ward are going to have to deal with it the rest of the season.
Hope he's okay.
Yes, we all do. Not that our condolences mean much, but we send them along regardless.
Between this and Ricky Pearsall, my goodness, man, it's a season.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the off-field stuff.
my goodness, man.
Major off-field stuff that's not
Can
connected.
they go like 2 months without having a tragic? Jesus, man. This
Yeah.
is
The bye
Anyway.
weeks certainly needed at this particular moment. So hopefully everyone works through things and rests up and gets healthy as the 49ers prepare to make a charge the rest of the way. Seems weird to talk about anything else after this. So let's just, we'll wrap it up here. We'll call it a show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio pods. Like and subscribe to both our YouTube channels, the Gold Standard YouTube channel and Grant's YouTube channel. I'm seeing a super chat here. Says all day, every day. Says after being shot in the chest, taking a hit going across the middle must feel like a Swedish massage. I did wonder that about Ricky Pearsall. Like, he might be like, dude, you think I'm going to be nervous about a 3rd down play? Like, no.
Yeah, he didn't flinch when the guy flashed the gun and said, "Give me your Rolex." He was like, "No."
Right.
No, not today. Ricky,
I can't
the
even.
ultimate legend. Hey, the thing about Ricky too is like players I really like on the team, players who are like seem down to earth and cool. I mean, Travarius Ward, everyone knows that about Travarius. He's been on the team a couple of years. Diamador Lenore, I think people are getting to know that about Diamador. Pretty cool guy. Ricky, very cool guy. Not cool. That doesn't really describe much. He's engaging. He's conversational. He seems down to earth. Seems like everyone's friend on the team and easy to, everyone wants to, everyone on the media wants to talk to Ricky. So appreciate you, Ricky. Thank you for being you.
He seems incredibly likable. And hopefully he can continue to build some chemistry.
And like he takes on the responsibility of a 1st round pick. Like, dude, I know I'm that guy. Let's talk. I'm back. I'm here in my locker. I want to talk. He's already doing that weekly stuff. Like, respect.
I like hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, Grant. Always appreciate the time. Rest up. Enjoy the bye week. Want to give a special shout out to BetUS once again for supporting both our channels. If you want to sign up for BetUS, use promo code YouTube150. Ultimately, I'm going to be proven right. The Niners are going to go on a huge run to end the year, and I will rub it in everyone's face, and we can all celebrate together. So make your peace with it now, Grant.
Hey, man, go 49ers. Go Kyle. Go Brock.